That is indeed a BMW unlock sound. Very wet and rainy day to start my week living with the Toyota Supra. It's going to be really interesting to see what this kind of German, kind of Japanese, but mainly German sports car is like. Pop the trunk. Gym bag in. Backpack in. I have this little cover here. And the exciting part, this one is a manual. Clutch. We have an actual clutch in the Supra. And here's the shifter, the little GR Gazoo Racing. Alrighty, off to work in the rain. The weather is much nicer today. It actually hailed yesterday, but we are spending a week with the Toyota Supra, and this one is a manual. Now, I have driven the Supra briefly, actually only on the track, both the 4-cylinder and the 6-cylinder automatic models. Now we're getting to spend some more time actually in the real world on the streets, and it being a manual is extra exciting. When the Supra first came out, there were some questions. Would there be a manual one? There really should be a manual one. This is co-developed with BMW, and I'm going to try to get out of my system now the overwhelming BMW-ness of the buttons, the interior, the sounds, because everybody knows it already. So I'm going to try to get out of my system and not focus too much on how BMW it feels. I'm going to try my best. We'll see how it goes. Go ahead, unlock. No comments. A little bit of a startup sequence there. So that's a familiar sound, and I'm not talking about the engine. So we have an iDrive controller here. They didn't do anything, so that's all BMW buttons, BMW screen, BMW font. It does have a digital cluster here. I haven't been in a new Z4 in a while, so I don't remember what that's like. Steering wheel does have a Toyota logo on it. And this one, manual, 6-speed. Reverse is left up. The little GR Gazoo Racing logo on the actual shifter itself. Also, this is something that I've always said since I first drove the car. It's not a bad thing to be partnered with the BMW, because it's not like BMWs are bad cars. They build great luxury cars, performance cars, enthusiast cars. BMW is a very prestigious brand. It's not like Toyota partnered with, I don't know, Mitsubishi or some like terrible brand who doesn't make good cars to build the Supra. Yes, it is very BMW underneath, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's a good driving car, good handling car. I have, like I mentioned, tracked these before, and I enjoyed it a lot on Road America. I was up in Road America. Now, my biggest complaint is it doesn't feel authentic to itself. We'll get that out of the way, and now let's just see what driving a manual Supra is like day-to-day living with it. Welcome to the Toyota Supra, Win.
Yay.
Are you super excited?
I'm excited for lunch.
Yeah, I'm hungry. We're getting lunch. We'll film later. Bye. Did you say it reminds you of the Nissan Coupe?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a direct competitor, the Nissan Z.
Yeah, I hate that car.
What? Why?
Because it's so low to the ground.
You just described all sports cars, Win.
But I'm out of shape and I can't squat that low.
You're just always the best for YouTube. You say the best.
Don't tell people I'm out of shape.
You told everybody you're out of shape. 100,000 people are going to hear this now.
Bold of you to assume you have that many followers.
Just finished the workout, leaving the office. It's finally Friday. We have about an hour drive to dinner. Getting some hot pots. We're going to take the Supra. We've been burning through this tank of gas. We will have to fill up for this weekend, but 50-minute drive. I'm running a bit late. Let's go. This shifter I actually like quite a lot. It's a bit tighter than I expected. I'm not a huge fan of BMW manuals typically. They feel very kind of rubbery and sloppy to me. But this one, gates are nicely spaced. You get a bit of a tactile kind of feel when you slot into the gates. It's a pretty thin, light little shifter too, so it's good. Here's the window sticker for this 2023 Toyota Supra. It's finished in Stratosphere. That blue paint looks really nice. 3-liter premium manual transmission. So they did up the horsepower output for the 3-liter. It's making 382 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque. 6-speed manual, rear-wheel drive. We have the active rear sport differential because it is the 3-liter and active exhaust. Really not that many options on this. So base price is $55,650. We have the driver assist package, which brings things like the blind spot monitor, the parking sensors. The color is $425. Carpeted cargo mat, $110. Carbon fiber mirror caps, $925. And as option after destination and everything, $59,400. So just under 60 grand. Fuel economy, oh, that's actually, I think that's quite a bit worse than the automatic 8-speed. 21 combined, 19 city, 27 highway. Still decent. If you want better fuel economy, there's a 4-cylinder Supra. Let's see, what I have been averaging, 21.5, and I've been mainly doing city with just a short little highway stint. So low 20s combined, which is right on par with what we're supposed to get. Also, check this out. See that N in the middle, neutral. If I go into first gear, it has a gear indicator, which is nice. The tack also changes a little bit when you go from neutral into gear. All right, just found a random parking lot to pull over and take a look at the exterior of the Toyota Supra. It's a bit dirty, forgive me. I've been driving it all week, it's been raining. So this design was previewed by the FT1 concept, which I actually got to see in person when it debuted at the Detroit Auto Show, and it looked awesome. But as usual, when you go from a concept car to a production car, not every single aspect is able to translate directly, but you see a lot of elements that are inspired by the FT1 concept. The front end here, the shape of the nose, the headlight signature here, the DRLs, a lot of that looks similar to the FT1. I think the front end of the Supra looks pretty good. I prefer the rear end. The lighting is really cool though. That part is quite distinctive. And this blue paint, this metallic blue, looks quite nice. When the sun hits it, look right there, that's a nice looking paint. We've got the optional carbon fiber mirrors here. The roof has that double bubble look to it. And then let's come around to the side. We've got blacked out wheels with the optional red brake calipers. Michelin Pilot Super Sport tires. I believe they're 255s up front and 275s in the back. It is very much the classic front engine rear wheel drive proportion, a longer nose here. The cabin sits further back. Big hood here. These are not functional. These carbon fiber mirrors are pretty nice. This is also not functional, just for appearances. You can see this piece here is actually attached to the door, and it helps the door flow into this pretty aggressive, actually, rear 3/4 here. This hip that angles out. This is also such a gigantic fuel door. Like, it is huge. I think it's because of the proximity of where the fuel filler cap and like the way the fender is. That's why it has to be so big. I think the BMW M2 also has a gigantic fuel door. It's just a random little thing. Hatchback here, the glass. You do have that cargo cover, so it hides what you have back there. Yes, it is quite dirty. We have the GR badge, the split exhaust. Oh, the lighting in the middle of the brake light. That's kind of cool. If you see a Supra with the red Supra lettering, that means it's one of the special edition A91s. I actually really like the rear 3/4 angle of the Supra. That's my favorite. I think it looks pretty aggressive. Have a bit of a like a ducktail spoiler there, and Toyota badging. And with that, let's hop back in the car and keep driving. So let's take the Supra for a bit of a drive and give it a review. When the Supra first came out, it was only available with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and that caused a bit of a kerfuffle. There were many purists, many enthusiasts who were quite upset over the fact that there was a Supra without a manual transmission. It can't be a Supra without a manual transmission. I wonder how much of the customer pressure was the reason we got a 6-speed manual in the Supra, or the fact that the Nissan Z, a competitor to this vehicle, came out with a 6-speed manual available. Regardless, now you can order a Supra either with the 6-speed manual or the 8-speed automatic as a no-cost option, so they're both available. All the Supras are rear-wheel drive only, and I'll be honest, typically I don't like BMW manual transmissions. Even those that are found in the BMW M cars, I find them to be a little rubbery, a little vague, not my favorite. I was pleasantly surprised with the one in this Supra. It's a little more tight feeling, pretty precise. You get a nice tactile response when you slot it into the gear. It's pretty quick too. You also get rev match downshift. So I'm in 5th gear right now, clutch in 4th. The computer does it all for you. You can turn it off, but not with just a button here in the middle. You have to go to sport mode, configure your individual sport mode, and like disable the, what is it called? Gear shift assistant. So I've left it on right now. I just went into sport mode. Unlike an M2 or something, there's only just one toggle. It's sport or regular normal. It's not like you can change the dampers individually with all these buttons on the center console. You are able to choose between, when you're in sport mode, you can go between the damping, the steering, and the engine. So I'm in just standard sport mode right now. Also does turn off auto stop start, which is good. So as a 6-cylinder Supra, you have adaptive dampers, active exhaust, so when you go into sport mode, it does get a bit louder. You hear a little of that kind of signature BMW burbles and pops sometimes. I actually like this quite a bit. It's very precise, fairly nimble feeling, got a good amount of torque, it's quick. It's not like crazy BMW M3 fast level, and you wouldn't expect that, right? With the power output, everything that this is set up to be. But the manual introduces a nice fun factor to this car. I got a little bit of a burble. Let's go through this roundabout. Woo. So this thing will get a bit tail happy. Now again, manual. I want to focus on the manual feel to this car. I like it. Is it faster? No, it is slower than the automatic transmission. 0 to 60 is like 3.9 was what this has been tested at, which is about 0.2 seconds slower than the auto. Quarter mile is going to be a little bit slower too. The manual has a more aggressive final drive ratio, but the individual gears are taller and obviously don't have the spread that an 8-speed automatic transmission would have. Regardless of all of that, I think it depends on what you're buying this car for. So I have some thoughts about the Supra being a Supra. Yes, it feels BMW, but just ignore all of that. How does it compare to something like the Nissan Z? The Nissan Z feels more authentic to itself, and what I mean by that is it feels like a Nissan, right? It feels like a 370Z that they put a twin-turbo V6 in the VR30, and that's just what it is, and that's genuinely what it is. This isn't Toyota. Ignore the Toyota badge. It's a BMW sports car. It's a 2-seater rear-wheel drive BMW coupe with a manual transmission that just happens to be a Supra, which I'm fine with. Evaluating that as a sports car, I'm happy it exists. If this is what it takes for us to still get rear-wheel drive, fun, manual sports cars, it's okay at the end of the day. In terms of actual driving capabilities, how it feels, I think the Supra is better than a Nissan Z in terms of driving dynamics, being on the track and things like that. But ultimately, if I'm looking for something truly track capable in this price range, call it $50,000 to $60,000, I can't ignore something like the Mustang Mach-1. This is quick, but the M2 just seems to have a bit more of the punch. That is also a little bit more practical. You have a bit bigger of a trunk. You have rear seats you can use in the M2. I think personally I would still end up going for the M2. It's not a detriment whatsoever against the Supra at all. And I like this with a manual transmission. It's definitely fun. It's so BMW. Compared to an M2, very different driving position feel, right? This has a much longer hood. You feel like you're sitting further back, closer to the rear axle, whereas the M2 is more that little sedan type of feel to it, where you're further forward. So that is also a completely different aspect from a dynamic standpoint, sitting in the car, how all of that feels. But living with the Supra on a day-to-day basis has been pretty nice. Tech creature comforts, it's fun enough, it's got a good amount of torque, and despite the fact that it is platform shared, this thing, just the name, the brand, still instills a lot of enthusiasm because Supra has that nameplate associated with it. So there we go, a quick little driving review, a couple thoughts on the manual Supra on the roads in the real world, comparing it to some of the other cars that I've driven. We'll get back to the regular vlog as I wrap up my week living with the Toyota Supra manual. As we park, you can see the overhead view with the parking sensors, proximity. Reverse would pull up the backup camera. Let's take a quick tour of the interior of the Supra, starting with the cluster, which is mostly digital. You can see some physical overlays like the fuel gauge on the left and the temperature on the right there. That is simply these light up bars, and it's not super reconfigurable. You can just toggle in the bottom right hand corner fuel economy, your trip info, your odometer, or blank. But the rest of it is not super reconfigurable. For turn sport on and off, you see it appear, disappear. The tack changes slightly. If I go into gear, it shows the gear you're currently in, which is pretty cool. Live changing indicator of that, but that's pretty much it there. On the left, we have some headlight controls, which, yeah. And then we have the JBL, I'm hesitating because that's BMW buttons. JBL 12-speaker sound system here. Not a ton of storage space. So like this is a very small little pocket there. And then I put my phone on that wireless charger. They had to shift the iDrive knob over because of the manual shifter to give this place space. Carbon fiber trim here. But this, you got two cup holders, but this doesn't open. There's a little cubby here. Put my sunglasses case there. And yeah, the glove box is not that big either. It's pretty much filled with the literature. That's not that spacious. But you have access to the trunk from up here, so I can just throw whatever I want back there. Steering wheel is pretty plain and basic. I'm not a huge fan of it, actually. I think this center part is just too big when you're holding onto it. It's not my favorite of steering wheels that I've experienced. I think the Nissan Z has a slightly nicer one. Something else I don't like is the infotainment screen that's kind of just stuck on there. Kind of an afterthought, just pops up there. Not a huge fan of that. The rest of the center cluster is totally fine. We do have heated seats, the buttons there are easy to use. This is fine, sport mode, auto stop start, parking sensors, traction control. I have played around with that a little bit. This thing will get tail happy. And like I mentioned, the shifter is actually pretty nice. I think it gives you a nice feedback when you slot it into gear. Not as good as something like the Tremec and the Cadillac Blackwings, for example, but it does the trick better than BMW shifters I've experienced, so that's personal preference. Do have a USB port, 12-volt outlet, and then the wireless charging pad. What else? The seats don't look super exciting. Like, I think the Nissan Z seats look cooler, especially in the blue interior finish, but they are pretty comfortable. I would not mind, did an hour drive in these, not that bad, so road tripping this would not be terrible. But there we go, that's a Supra. At the price point, you expect a couple creature comforts, but nothing crazy over the top. That's soft touch, that's a little bit of maybe fake leather, plastic. So it fits it, right? A BMW M2 I think is a bit nicer on the inside. Obviously the M3 will be even nicer, but this fits the segment pretty well. I do have quite good headroom. I can fit in these with a helmet on, so the Supra has that going for it. I think the roof with these like double indents there, that definitely helps a lot. You see it goes up, so it helps a lot with interior space and headroom. Even at night, this blue paint looks fantastic. You can see a bit of that flake when the light hits it. And then let's take a look at the tail lights. Pretty cool shape. I think they did a decent job echoing the ethos of the FT1 and a little bit of the overall Gen 4 Supra shape. Yeah, these DRLs are cool. I like seeing them in the reflection on windows or cars in front of me. Also take a look at the key fob. Familiar shape, right? All right, time to head home. Last night with the Supra. That's pretty cool. I like that. Alright, this wraps up my week living with the manual Toyota Supra. In real-world situations, I do think the manual makes it a much more fun experience. This is a better driving sports car in the segment than the Nissan Z as it sits. It handles better, it's sharper, the steering, everything I think is a bit better. Yes, it does feel very BMW, but regardless of that, the manual experience is a lot of fun. The automatic, I think, is still faster for sure in a straight line around the track. It's a good ZF8 speed in the Supra, but I'm happy they gave us the option to have a manual transmission. Honestly, Toyota seems to really care about enthusiasts. Look at the GR Corolla, GR Yaris, this vehicle. They are still building cars for enthusiasts, all while making plug-in whatever Prius Primes and RAV4 hybrids and stuff like that. So that's pretty nice to see. Hope you guys enjoyed this vlog living with the manual Toyota Supra plus a little mini review. Thanks for watching.